episode 176 of the Whatnauts Review Show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. It could be a movie, TV series, anime, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we discuss it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by my co-captain, Kyle Springer.
Good morning. How's it going, Melissa?
It's going okay. I'm getting ready to decorate for Halloween today.
Ooh, yeah. It's about that time.
Pumpkin time.
Absolutely. We haven't really started to think about fall stuff here at my house yet. We are thinking about having a Halloween party, though. We have a big backyard and we have a fire pit and stuff like that. And we were thinking like, ooh, we could get a projector and put some scary movie on and stuff like that, and just use the backyard space that we got there. But that's good. We'll see what we end up doing.
Today, we are starting another one of our end of the month special episodes, watching one show all the way through to its conclusion, and we are talking about The Leftovers. This is a show co-created by Damon Lindelof, who worked on Lost, which is mostly why we picked it.
Kind of.
So we vibrate on a Lost frequency. We follow Lost-like things.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, you and I are both big fans of Lost, and that's kind of how we connected.
Yeah.
Well, you had come on to one of the Whatnauts live streams once before, but when I started to need some help because Paul stepped down, you were like, hey, I could potentially do it. And so I was like, okay, who are you? And you were like, I like Lost. And I was like, good, you're hired.
That's the only credential you need.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say Lost is one of my favorite shows. It's a show I will always defend, but will be one of the first to let you know, yes, it had some glaring flaws.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Lost is messy, but it's a mess that I'm very, very fond of. And it's a mess that I found rewarding.
Agreed. Indeed. Yeah, so we're watching The Leftovers season 1. How did you do you remember when this was coming out? Because I feel like it wasn't too long ago.
No, I was going to ask you. I think you've got the Wikipedia open. What year did this start? Was this like 2014?
Let me see here. It aired on HBO from June 29th, 2014 to June 4th, 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I like vaguely remember when this was a thing, that like, oh, the creator of Lost is making something new.
Yeah.
This is his next show. But this is kind of when Netflix was really the only streaming service around, except for Hulu.
Netflix, Hulu, Prime.
I mean, things were around, but it was still just like Netflix is the main one here. So HBO was something I didn't have access to.
Yeah.
And so this just kind of never really made it onto my radar and stuff like that. So missed it when it was coming out, but I've always been interested because it seemed like it had a good central mystery and was doing a lot of the same like style of character work that Lost potentially was. And so yeah, like I've been curious, and I've managed to stay away from like spoilers and stuff of what actually happened or what actually this is about and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see where the show goes, and I'm excited to talk about it today.
Yeah, I only know one thing about how the show continues. I think I heard it on some podcast interview with Damon Lindelof. Maybe it was the Lost podcast, The Storm. I'm not sure. But the one thing that I heard about how the series progresses is what sold me on watching this show. I think I mentioned it to you.
If you did, I've completely forgotten what that detail is. So
that's fine then. We'll talk about it. They've set it up. We'll talk about it in season 2 or in season 3 whenever this punchline arrives.
Sure. Good. Waiting for the punchline. Cannot wait. Good stuff. Yeah. The Leftovers. Season 1. Melissa, what did you think?
This show is stylistically really impressive. I love how the show is done. And when it started out, it took me a while to settle into the tone of the thing because it is pretty melancholy.
Yeah.
Which isn't a tone I normally operate on. But I wonder if this is true for you too. When I hit episode 3, then I was completely sold. I'm like, okay, I'm in it. I'm in it for the whole time. Beyond the fact that I already agreed to do so for a podcast.
Yeah. It's like, well, I have to anyways, but
yeah. Now I'm going to enjoy it more.
Sold on episode 3 then. Yeah, it's a bit of a melancholy show. I kind of feel like this is more so in a direct response to the criticism of Lost, where Lost was very much or at least seemed to be focused on the mysteries and like, ooh, what's the island? Who are the others? What's this Dharma Initiative thing? What's all this time travel stuff? Surprise if you didn't know Lost has a bunch of time travel stuff. And yes, you do find out why there's a polar bear there, at least if you read between the lines. And it's really focused on those mysteries, and I think that's what a lot of people got caught up on. And there is this like central event that this show kind of revolves around, and at least here in season 1, doesn't really explore it all that much. It's just like it happened. But that's not what the show is about. Like we're not focusing on that or what the cause was. Was this scientific? Yeah. Was this a terrorist attack? Who knows? It's just we're just gonna see how people cope with losing loved ones and how they try and move on or how they fail to move on. And it's a lot of really interesting character work.
It is. Yeah. The premise of the show. Oh, and we should also say it's based on a novel by Tom Perrotta, which I'm not familiar with. I didn't know this was based on a novel. Yeah, and the author co-produces the show. I think wrote at least the season finale episode. Yeah. So it's based in something. This wasn't an original idea for TV. So I think a lot of what we're talking about may have already been present in the novel.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. But I for Damon Lindelof specifically, for him to do this kind of show, it just seems like, hey, I get it. Too much mystery. How about one inciting mystery to get you interested, but then we just don't talk about it, right? Like,
yeah. And the inciting mystery is that one day 2% of the entire world's population suddenly disappears. This isn't even like Infinity War where they like turn to dust and you see it. No, it's like they're there one frame and gone the next.
Yeah.
And there's seemingly no pattern, no explanation. People have been trying to investigate this. Like, is this something? Yeah, is it scientific? Is it supernatural? Is it spiritual? And the show starts 3 years after that day. And it's not about that mystery, but it is about how the existence of that mystery affects people, how they're dealing with loss, how they're moving on, and why they're moving on, the new purpose that they try and find in life. And it all takes place, it mostly takes place in this like small town in New York State called Mapleton, focusing on Kevin Garvey, who is the town sheriff. And just trying to keep peace in the town, trying to continue to raise his teenage daughter after his wife has left the family to join a mysterious cult.
Yep, indeed. Yeah, there's a lot in here, I think, to really dig into and unpack, especially as this show continues. But yeah, I enjoyed the show. I think it took me longer to get into it. Yeah, I mean, you said like stylistically, the show is made really well. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a fascinating show to watch, but at the same time, I was also kind of bored at
It's
times. Like I was, but I wasn't. Like I'm interested in the ingredients in this
yeah,
show, but they haven't made the cake yet, if that makes sense. So I'm still just like, huh, okay, where are you
yeah,
going with
yeah,
this?
and it is a slower paced show. And season 1 does feel very exploratory, and like it's setting up a lot of things on a chessboard, but we haven't gotten to a lot of the. I still feel like the best of the tension is ahead of us.
Yeah, I believe so too, especially with the way season 1 finished. I have to say I was very very impressed with the way it finished, because it
Mm-hmm.
was this like beautiful, yeah, like you said, like chess, like they're moving pieces into place, and by the end of season 1 you're like, oh, all of these pieces are in place over here. I see. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting. Like I did not know that that's what it was kind of going for or leading to, and
yeah.
was just like, okay, interesting. I'm excited to
And
watch season 2 now.
yeah, and things are morphing. There's one storyline that at the beginning of the season you think is going to be one thing, and then by the end of the season, it's that initial premise has kind of been nullified and it turns into something completely different.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I lots of cool characters here. I do have to say, for the daughter, I don't remember her name off the top of my head,
Jill,
but Jill. Oh yeah, that's right, because she's played by Margaret Qualley, I believe is how you say her name.
think so.
I think so.
What do you?
I
Is there something you know her from? Because I kept looking at her thinking she looked familiar.
There's something I know her from. I don't think it would be that you know her from. She
Okay.
plays a character in the video game Death Stranding,
Oh,
which I
huh.
played 2 years ago. Yeah, it's like her likeness and her voice acting
Okay.
and stuff like that. She plays a character named Mama and her twin sister Lockney. Um, so she's in that, but that's the only thing that I knew her from. And so when she showed up in
Okay.
this, I was like, she's so familiar. Like, what do I know her from? And then I
Yeah.
looked her up, and it
I
was like, she's in Death Stranding. I was like, oh, okay. I played that
there's a
game. I
lot
liked
of
that one.
this is a great cast. There's a lot of people that I did mean to look up. Like, where have I seen you before?
Yeah.
Why are you familiar to me?
Yeah. Lots of good stuff. We'll get into all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, interesting show. I recommend it. Like we
Yeah.
said, it is kind of melancholy. There's a bunch of like melodic piano scores underneath things, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it's not sad per se. There is a lot of sadness in the show, but that like the show never really got me down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's enough for your brain to chew on that it is intriguing enough to keep propelling you forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any other kind of final spoiler-free thoughts before we get into
No,
spoilers and
let's
stuff like that?
let's go ahead. Let's clean our house and let's get to talking.
Let's do it. Let's take a quick break for housekeeping, and then when we come back, we will dive into spoilers and get a little bit deeper into the leftovers. We'll be right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you would check them all out. You can find out more information on our website at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/The Whatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at the $3 tier. You can also get a shout out and thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/The Whatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, go to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier and above. So thank you to Sam. We appreciate
Thanks, Sam.
We love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Cool things that we have been doing here at the Whatnauts that you should know about. 2 days ago, we did an interview with Stephanie Cook on the Captain's Log. You guys should go check that out. She has written a number of comics and graphic novels. She has a middle grade graphic novel out right now called Paranorthern. If you want some good spooky, funny times, I think that will be one to check out. She's also the host of Capercast, a podcast where they talk all about heist movies and caper movies and stuff all like that. So it was good to have her on the show because I found her and her work through a podcast years ago, and that was actually the first podcast that I got into. Period. Like that was the first one that week in and week out I went to talking comics to do all of that stuff. But we got to have her on the show, and there may be a underground pillow fighting league in that conversation, so you might want to go check that one out.
goes to a lot of places.
It sure does. Good fun stuff. Cool. Let us get on into spoilers. Spoiler mode. Here we go. Here we are doing our thing. Yes, an interesting cast. That's, I think, where I want to start. I did not know that Liv Tyler was in this. I have a schoolyard crush on her and always have.
She's so pretty. She's so pretty,
really
and she's got one of the most beautiful voices, just speaking voices you've ever heard. And then they make her be silent for a lot of episodes. Yes, and then she will likely continue to be silent.
Yeah. Which is an interesting thing for some of those actors too, because I don't know how that works, especially for someone like Liv Tyler, who's a more well-known actress, and usually people are kind of paid based on if they speak or not and how much they speak. And I'm not sure exactly how all that works, but I know if you're like if you are an extra on set or someone who's not supposed to speak, right, and then you do say something, they either have to like redo that take or be like, actually, we like that line. Can we pay him a little bit more for that speaking role? So yeah, I don't know how that works. I just thought that was interesting though, to be like, yeah, let's get the this big name actor and just have him not speak.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean that they're not acting. It's just like it's an interesting role to take.
Yeah.
One that I feel like challenge. I could do because I don't have to memorize lines, right? I can just be like,
well, you have to memorize what you write down on your notepad, which is the cult in this town is called the Guilty Remnant. And all of their members take a vow of silence. They only communicate by like writing on a notepad. They also wear all white, and not even like mystical looking white robes. It's just like normal everyday clothes, but they bought the white one of everything. And they're constantly smoking. They just stand
chain
aggressively outside, silently smoking at you.
It's a very, very striking image. That it's funny, but it's not. It's spooky, but it's not. It's terrifying, but it's not. It's just like it's this thing that just seems out of place.
Yeah. Definitely the most unique variation on a cult I've ever seen in a TV show, I guess. Not that comes up in a lot of shows that I'm watching. And they're pretty mysterious. I think by the end of the season, you've got a greater sense of like what their ideals are, but it's still a little foggy, like specifically what they want, what their win condition is, and why they choose certain people to try and lure them into the group.
Yeah. I liked this cast a lot. I thought for some reason in my mind that the main character, Kevin Garvey, was going to be a different actor. I don't know. Like this is just like a preconceived notion in my head of like, oh, it's probably an actor that I know. I don't know where from. And then I saw Justin Theroux in this, and I'm not familiar with him.
He was in Maniac, which I watched. Yeah, he's the that doctor who's like wearing a toupee who they bring in because like the computer is based on his mom. He's that guy.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and I watched it just earlier this summer when you were like out on vacation. That's an episode a friend of the show, Jack, came on and did with me. And yeah, I kept trying to get my brain to like,
oh my God.
Like I understood this is the same actor and he looks very different because it's like in this show, he's kind of scruffy, and in Maniac, he's like very clean shaven and his hair is very different, portraying a like very different guy. But my brain was like, are you sure? Are you sure that's the same man? So drastically different performances. Way to go, Justin Theroux.
Apparently we are pretty familiar with his work. He was in Mulholland Drive. He was in American Psycho. He was in the most recent Lady and the Tramp. But he's also
all movies I have not seen, have not come up on this podcast.
Sure, not on this podcast, but at least in pop culture, you know the name.
A human American knows Psycho, Justin Theroux. Yeah.
Was also credited as a screenwriter on such films as Tropic Thunder, and the superhero film Iron Man 2.
Whoa!
He was a screenwriter on Iron Man 2. Interesting.
Wow.
I did not know
many
that.
skills.
Yeah. But this is the first that I'm personally seeing of him, I guess, except Maniac, but it's been
there's a lot going on in
Maniac.
It's easy to forget one aspect of that show. Yeah,
there's a lot. But yeah, so he was just someone that I was not, and he's up until 2017, or from 2015 to 2017, he was married to Jennifer Aniston. Just happened to see that on his Wikipedia page. But yeah, I wasn't super familiar with him, so I was just like, okay, not what I thought, not who I was expecting to lead this show. And then I mentioned Margaret Qualley that plays his daughter Jill. Doesn't necessarily look like a high schooler. I don't know exactly how old she is. It's one of those
bought her as being
things.
Like 17. Yeah.
Oddly enough, I bought it more when she looked younger and had the braces. Like she nailed that.
Yeah, she like very clearly differentiated between like 14-year-old Jill and like 17-year-old Jill in
Yeah,
the episode where we have
that
a
was
flashback.
kind of wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I was also really impressed with the son. What was his name?
Yeah.
Tommy?
Yes.
Yeah, he like we don't get too much of him, but we got enough that I really liked what they did with him, and I thought he had some fantastic performances.
Yeah. Great cast all the way around. I think the shining star for me is Christopher Eccleston.
Yep,
And like
yep.
episode 3 focuses on his character. The first 2 episodes, we follow a lot of different storylines from all these people around town, and Tommy, who's like the one person outside of town. He like left town to go to college, got involved in an additional cult, and he's like kind of traveling around. And eventually at the end of the season, he gets back to Mapleton. But yeah, so the first 2 episodes, we check in with everybody. Episode 3 is just Matt. It's only Christopher Eccleston's character and his journey. We like specifically zoomed in on one person, which I really liked. And they don't do it often. It's not like Lost where every episode had island stuff, but also it was like one person's flashback episode where we're like, this is what Hurley was doing before he got to the island.
I mean, they kind of did that in this. We got one for Matt. We got one for Nora. We got one for Kevin. Right? Like,
I suppose so. Yeah. But like Kevin's interacting with like everybody else in town. Yeah. Like it's not, there's some element of it there, but it's not as far as like Lost was doing it. But I like this balance. I like this mystery of, I'd love to know more about Meg. When will I have that opportunity? Maybe not until like end of season 2 where they'll be like, okay, here's your Meg episode.
Yeah, I also want to give a big shout out to Nora, and I believe the actress's name is Carrie Coon.
Yes.
Reminds me a lot of she reminds me a lot of Anna Torv from Fringe.
I see that.
Or from Mind Hunter. There's like every now and again they look so similar, or they have like a certain mannerism or their voice or something. And I really like Anna Torv. So to see Carrie in this was like, I'm getting a lot of these vibes, and I really like it. I like her character. Yeah. This is interesting.
One face I was happy to see again. I meant to make sure this was the same guy. I'm like 90% sure. Isn't Kevin's dad the town sheriff from Castle Rock? Do you remember when we watched Castle Rock like 2 years ago?
Yeah, I don't remember if he's in Castle Rock. The actor's name is God, what is his name? I know him as Stick from Daredevil on Netflix.
Right. Yes, that makes sense.
The one that trained Matt Murdock.
That would also be the same guy. I'm gonna look this up now. Now I'm gonna head to my IMDb. Was he on Castle Rock? Right.
Let me see here. Let's see. Filmography. He's in a bunch of movies. Castle Rock. Yes, he was in Castle Rock as Alan Pangborn.
Yes. And Castle Rock was a show I like wasn't super fond of. That show was a real bummer. Like it did some things that I thought were really interesting. There's one episode of the show that I think is beautiful, but on the whole, it was like way too grim for me. But I loved that performance, and that has stuck with me, you know, after like 2 years and change of watching so many different things for the show week after week. I was delighted to see Scott Glenn again. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think one other familiar face, this is something else I meant to double check and didn't. I think Elliot and Darlene's mom is one of the other conference goers in the Nora episode. I think she's one of the other people they're partying with in that suite. Again, didn't make sure. May have just been a lady that reminded me of that mom, and the reminiscence enough was like, oh boy, what a treat.
There you go. Yeah, star-studded cast in this show, but I mean, it's HBO. They usually can pull some big names, or at least some like really really good lesser known actors that when you see them, you just fall in love. You're just like, oh man, they're so good. Who are they? I want to know more.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting character work. What you mentioned the one that focused on Matt, the priest. Was he your favorite character? Was he the one that you like got sucked into the most?
It might have been him, and also in a shocking turn of events, I really liked the teens in this show. And I've mentioned often before that I can get like burnt out on teen stories. I frequently, as a 30-year-old, want to see other 30-year-olds. I want to see more adults. But I really like Jill. I thought Jill's best friend Amy was interesting.
She was fantastic. Yeah.
She kind of departs the show a bit at the end of the season. I hope she's back later. And those two twins, they've got these friends who are just these two dopey twin teenage boys who have no dramatic level to them. They're like not overtly comic relief. They're just like these teenage dork boys, and they're such a delight.
The bros.
They had such a nice levity to the show, and they're both like so sweet. Like they're both pretty nice guys. I love in the first episode where like I think Jill's gonna like give him a ride home from a party or something like that, and they open up the trunk of Kevin's car because she borrowed Kevin's car. And there's a dead dog back there, which is part of another plot. And the three of them are just staring in the back of the trunk, and one of the boys just says, "You know, there's a dead dog in the back of your car."
Just like, yes, thank you. We know. We're all looking.
Right.
Good stuff. Yeah. I think for me the most interesting characters ended up being kind of the people in the cult. It like in the guilty remnant. They're later of the cult, or the one that is like at least in charge of this chapter, because apparently they're
Patty.
all over the country. Patty was a really interesting character. I hope we get to see more of her in season 2 and 3, despite what happened to her. There seems to be this maybe you can see ghosts, maybe you're going crazy and just imagining things and hallucinating. I don't know, but yeah, I'd like to see more of her in the show, because she's a really really powerful presence in the show, where she is this like immovable object, right? Like she is this force that is kind of directing things and orchestrating things, but also isn't really saying what she means, and stuff like that. She is one of the show's mysteries, and I want to know more about her and her story, because we do start to get some of the like lost like flashbacks where it's like, oh, okay, so this character was this character's therapist, and this is the dog breeder that they were gonna buy a dog from, and the car crash that we saw in the pilot was actually this other character. Like there is some of that stuff in there that I'm like, this is lost. I see what's happening here. But it's not to the extent that Lost did all of that stuff. But it's interesting to see where she was before the departing, or I guess that's what it's called. And
the departure. Yes.
Yeah. And then to see where she is after, and to see that change in her character is drastic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I want to know more about her.
Yeah, this show is maybe the best show I've ever seen at leaving holes in the story, very deliberately leaving holes for you to wonder about. Like I mentioned that everything takes place like 3 years after the departure. And then the second last episode of the season is a flashback to the day before the departure and like that morning when it happens. But you don't see anything really from between those two times. So there's still a lot left up to your imagination. A surprise I thought was really interesting, not a huge plot twist, but we see Kevin and Jill living in this house. We know that like Tommy like went off to college and then he got wrapped up in this cult thing with Wayne. We know that Lori left to join the guilty remnant there in town. But then in this flashback episode, you find out that 3 years ago, they lived in a completely different house. They're in this like very nice, like, it's a crisp white, like modern house with like big art pieces on the wall. And it seems like, maybe like Lori was the one who was like the breadwinner or something. Maybe that was her, like, the house she chose. And after she joined the cult, she's like, I sold the house and Kevin has to like move in somewhere else. That might be like his dad's old house. I'm not sure. But the fact that also in those 3 years, these characters like completely moved homes within the town. It's very minor, but it is something that you take for granted as, yes, this house where we see the family is where the family has always been. No, the location change was also part of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like each character has their own interesting facet. So I mentioned the end of season one here, and I thought that was maybe the best thing that happened within season one here, of just where it all ended up, because this show very much is a show about loss and coping and moving on, or hey, it's okay if some people do it faster, some people do it slower. There's all sorts of stuff. But Kevin, being the main character, his family is torn apart. He didn't necessarily lose anyone immediate, at least that we know of, just yet. But because of this departure, his family gets torn apart. The wife basically leaves him for this cult where she's not speaking. She eventually wants a divorce. Tommy then drops out of college and gets involved with this cult.
Yeah.
And just seems to be more and more distant. And Jill is kind of the only like remaining one, but even she like has a lot of just like the stuff that's happening here is not good. I hate what's happening. And
she's acting out a lot.
It's a lot of stuff, yeah. And then at the end of the show, there's a crazy sequence where Patty, who we mentioned, ends up being abducted by Kevin in this drunken blackout hallucination.
No, I don't even know if he's drunk. Like Kevin throughout the season has
stress.
I think he thinks like maybe he's having bad dreams, and like very vivid dreams. And then he wakes up and he's like not sure, was that a dream? Was I sleepwalking? Yeah. Did I go out and do some of that? And his father was the town sheriff before him, and he had a mental illness episode. It seems like he has other voices in his head that he's talking to, and he was removed from the position. And Kevin was already on the force, but then he got promoted to like the town sheriff, the leader.
Yeah.
Sort of having to suddenly follow in his father's footsteps when maybe there was not a planned retirement. So he's struggling with that position, particularly like in the situation the town and the entire world is in, and he's worried, like, am I going to turn out like my dad? Whatever condition he has, am I going to get that either through biology or through stress?
Right. Yeah. So he's dealing with all of that and ends up abducting Patty, who then ends up killing herself in the midst of all of that. Matt comes to help Kevin dispose of the body and cover this up, and it's kind of wild. The whole thing like, just feels like a fever dream.
Yes. And like
what
then Kevin like keeps having hallucinations like on the drive back. Like there's a like Matt is driving him back to town, and then they pull up outside like some sort of an institution, and Matt's like, Kevin, I'm sorry, but like, I had to take you here. And then Kevin's brought into the institution. Turns out it's the same place where his dad is. And like, you think all of that is real. And then Ghost Patty shows up and you think, okay, is Ghost Patty real? Is Ghost Patty a hallucination? And then Kevin wakes up again and you realize that entire section was all a dream or a hallucination.
A dream, yeah.
Keeps nesting things. I love that Matt is the friend that you can call to help you bury a body because he's like, well, body's got to have last rites. He's like, I got to make sure that a dead body has its eyes closed, has a prayer said over it.
Yeah, but yeah, so he's dealing with all of that, and then they stop to eat, and Kevin ends up going in the bathroom where he meets Wayne, who I'm sure we'll circle back around to in a sec here, but Wayne basically thinks he is like this second coming of Jesus or what have you, something like that. And he's like healing people or like taking away their like emotional pain somehow, some way by hugging them. It's a little unclear, but he like Kevin meets him in the bathroom where Wayne is dying, like he's been stabbed or something, and is
it's some injury out. That we have not seen. We don't know where he got it, why he's in this town particularly. He was like in Ohio the last time we checked in with him. Why is he like outside of Mapleton? A lot of mystery there.
But he finds him, and Wayne is having a moment of doubt. Like as he's dying, he's like, man, I did a lot of stuff in my life, but right now I'm not even sure I actually helped. Like I don't even know. And so he's like, hey, do me a favor, make a wish, and if it comes true, then I'll know that I helped someone and I can die happy. And so we assume Kevin made a wish. We think we know what that wish is, but he never vocalized it because immediately after that, Wayne is like, yeah, I can do that one. Wish granted. And then he dies. And then immediately after that, it seems like Kevin, this man who's had his family torn apart, gets his family again, right? We see his wife and daughter are both safe after having been in this violent attack. We see his son coming back into town with a baby who we learn that his wife was pregnant and I assume lost the baby in the departure. And so now they have this other baby on top of that. So it's like his whole family it has returned. So I really, really enjoyed that. I didn't like how Nora was then like, look, I found a baby. It's just on the front porch. It's like, no, that's don't ruin this moment, Nora. What are you doing?
Well, I don't know. It seems like he wanted a sense of family back. He did divorce Lori. It's not sure if he's like, right. Yes, I would love to have Lori back, or I am ready to move on with Nora. Nora finds the baby on the doorstep, which is also like she lost her husband and her 2 kids suddenly in the departure. And like to have this to have a child that may need to be cared for gives her this renewed sense of purpose. Like she's there at his doorstep to like drop off a letter saying, Kevin, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Seems like she's leaving to just like go somewhere where nobody knows her and start over.
That or commit suicide. It seemed like she was leaving to go to an actual place, but for a while there, she is traumatized at what happened. It seemed like hey, if this doesn't work out, like this is my last hope. If this does not work, then I'm done.
I think she says that she doesn't have the strength to live nor the power to die or something like that in her letter. Like she doesn't know how to continue living, but I think suicide is beyond her. I think she's going to go out there, try and make a new life, or if not that, just sort of let herself just sort of fade away, just fall to like emotional entropy, just become nothing, but not necessarily overtly kill herself. All of which is nullified at this point. I think that's when she finds this baby, that pathway, she shuts the door to it. She's not going to continue down that road anymore.
Which, like I think with Kevin's family coming back together, it doesn't necessarily mean like everything's solved, end of show, happily ever after. Like I don't think that's the case, but it is this interesting like meeting point, so to speak, of like, oh, hey, the family is all kind of right there now. That's going to be interesting to see. And yeah, it seems like Kevin and Nora kind of have this thing going on that might end up being like, hey, let's take this baby and raise that as our new family, and like they it might be this like Phoenix kind of thing where like, hey, out of the ashes of my old family, here's this new one that we can maybe find hope in.
Yeah, unclear what the future of that baby is, because it's Wayne, this sort of godlike cult leader, and Christine, who's one of the girls who hangs around his cult.
One of his harem, but I feel weird saying shit because I don't know.
I don't know. It's not a corner of the story we spend a lot of time with, but she has this baby, and like he's told her like, you're special. This baby will be like, they call the baby the bridge. Like it seems like maybe Wayne believes that like if he has a child with this girl,
to the ones who departed, maybe
get them back. Unsure. And so Tommy, it's his job to just take care of Christine. They're like on the road, kind of on the run after Wayne's like compound was raided. And Tommy finds out that Wayne was in the situation with several other girls, and he finds another girl who looks a lot like Christine, is pregnant at approximately the same stage. Like all of this happened at once. She also has like another guy that he saw around the compound who's like her protector. And she's like, no, Wayne told me I'm special. My baby is the bridge. I think Christine has her baby, and it's a girl when Wayne had always referred to the baby as a boy. So she thinks, oh no, it's not me. This is just a regular baby. This isn't a magic baby. And then she leaves. She abandons the baby. Tommy has the baby. And so it's not, and like he had told her, like, I'm going to get a job. Like we can raise the baby together. Like I'm not going to leave you two. But then she leaves. So it's unclear. Where is Christine? Where did she go? Will we ever see her again? Now that Christine is out of the picture, does Tommy still intend to continue to care for the baby? Probably not, or at least not directly, because he does just leave the baby on his dad's doorstep. Like, I don't know what to do. My dad will take care of it.
Yeah, I feel like Tommy is the most like chaotic good character in this, at least so far, right?
Like Tommy seems to have good intentions. Yes.
He has good intentions. He seems like he's a good kid and all that. He just got wrapped up in this cult that he believes in, and not to a point where he is like he's not the evangelical type, but he is this like this follower. Like he's looking for something to just like, hey, I like he seems more like the soldier type where he's like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Point me at something.
Yeah. And yeah, but the stuff he gets mixed up in, the compound gets raided, there's gunfire, it's intense. And then he ends up like he has to like put this money underneath one of the like the post office like mail boxes things, and you can tell he's so like nervous and scared to do it that he runs there and then runs back. But he's so good, but he's so chaotic, and he's always just screaming like, fuck, god damn it, I don't know what to do, god damn. And then like the baby gets abandoned, right? And like just like his first instinct is just to like go in there, get the baby and protect it. And like find like he has this parental like instinct to him there. But it's just everything is going wrong around him. And so like if you could add a new square to that alignment chart, it's like he's tragic good. like he himself is not necessarily chaotic, but it's everything that's happening around him. Like he's just stuck there.
I feel like Matt might also be in that alignment square, because the episode where he's going to lose his church unless he like gets enough money to like somebody wants to purchase his church, and the bank had told him, okay, like we know you're behind on payments, you can keep it for now until somebody makes an offer on it. And then somebody does, and his banker's like, if you can get me that much money plus like $1 more, if you beat their bid by that much, get me the cash by tomorrow, you can keep the church. And he like has this episode of faith where like he keeps seeing pigeons all over the place, and he had visited a casino and there's a pigeon loose in the casino. Very happy that that's a scenario that's also in this world. It's just a loose bird in a casino. And he's like, okay, the pigeons are leading me. They're going to show me what to do. And he goes to the casino. He takes like the little bit of money he has left. He bets and he wins, and he does. He gets it. He gets the money that he needs. And then like the guy who was just standing next to him at the roulette table then tries to steal it from him out in the parking lot. And he just beats the guy. Unclear if it is to death. We don't follow up with that again. Nobody ever comes for Matt. Like the guy had a girlfriend or a partner there.
In a sense, it was self-defense. Like you could argue that and win, but it was also like self-defense after the fact, right? Where like Matt had already gotten beat up. The guy left, and then like Matt got out of his car to then go follow that guy again and beat him up and steal it.
Yeah, it went beyond just the simple fact of I need to get you off of me and I need to get my money back. That he. What an episode. That episode that like narrowed down character study. I really like Matt. I like the man of faith archetype in a narrative. I like to follow that journey. I love the hard smash cut in that episode where it just suddenly starts playing Captain and Tennille's Love Will Keep Us Together with that like like that really bouncy synthy music that's like so garishly upbeat, where it's just a hard smash cut to him like digging a hole in the ground to like hide money. That sold me. I love how this show is edited. I love all of its sudden aggressive editing.
It's an interesting show indeed. I do, however, want to talk about what I didn't like about the show here. Again, the show is phenomenal. But like I said, I was kind of bored through most of it. And then it wasn't really till I don't know, episode 7 onwards that it really kind of started to hook me. But even then, like I I'd be okay if I didn't continue.
Mm.
I'd be fine. Like where season 1 wrapped up is kind of hopeful of just like, oh look, the family's back together and Nora now has a reason to live. Cool, good,
Yeah.
end, right? But I thought the show. So the first thing that we see of this show is October 14th, like the moment the departure
Yes.
happens, and you don't really know exactly what's going on. Neither do the characters. But beyond that, yeah, it is just this whole show is a character drama, and it doesn't focus on the mysteries enough for my taste. Like
Uh-huh.
I do actually want them to explore what is the departure? Is this scientific? Is this spiritual? Is that like I know we're not going to get an answer with that. Like I it is a mystery where I like despite me wanting them to explore it, I know that we're not gonna get that. But
Yeah, or maybe we get
I
something
just
at the end, but it's not like an ongoing pursuit of the show consistently episode to episode.
yeah, and so instead, yeah, it focuses on these kind of slice of life moments.
Mhm.
Just these mishaps and adventures that these characters have and what they're dealing with. And again, it's good, doesn't necessarily keep my attention the way I would want this show to do. And I feel like the the stuff that happened in like the final 2 episodes with the what's the cult's name again? The ones in
The
all
guilty
white,
remnant.
guilty remnant. Yeah, the thing that they do at the end is fucking wild.
Yeah.
And I think the chaos that ensues with that, I think is equally or could have been equally a let me reword that. Could have been a mystery on par with what the whole departure is. If you start this season with a scene like amidst all of this chaos, right, where people are running around, they're getting shot, there's these like weird body bags being left everywhere, like you don't know what's happening, buildings are on fire, but you just get like 30 seconds to a minute of that and you're
Mm.
just like what is happening, and then it just goes
Yeah.
back to like normal life, normal town of Mapleton, and then like by the end of this we're gonna find out how this town just descends into chaos. Like I
Mm.
like how does it do that? How does it go from just quiet normal town with a where everyone knows the sheriff and they're all like, hey, the good old sheriff of Mapleton, like like that to me would have been an incredibly good mystery to kind of sprinkle throughout the show. um it's still implemented incredibly
Mhm.
well the way it is, but I felt like I needed a little bit more throughout the show to intrigue me of what's coming down the road. um
Okay.
like it intrigued me with each character specifically of like, okay, like here's a little bit more about Nora, here's a little bit more about Matt, right? Like like they intrigued me on those smaller levels, but as like a big like whole thing, it was just like I don't necessarily know why I should care or what I should look forward to. And yeah, if they had done that one scene where it's Matt and Kevin in the car when they get back and they almost hit someone, and so someone is running out with the gun and is like, get back here, get, and like the shock of that and seeing them just be like, what is going on here, was wild.
Mm-hmm.
And like that was the thing that was like, I'm in it for this stuff. Like, give me more of this. I want that, because that was fascinating.
I like the shock factor. I like those ongoing like the mysteries beyond what is the departure, why did it happen, who it happened to. The first episode has, when it introduces a character, it will have this like brief hard cut to just like 10 seconds of something from their past. Like somebody asks, it's like the episode 1 is like the 3-year anniversary specifically of the departure. And like Kevin's talking to a lady in a bar, and she's like, well, what were you doing at the moment of the departure? And it flashes back to Kevin having sex with this woman. Just for like 5 abrupt, sharp seconds. And then it cuts back to him, and I don't know what it is that he actually tells this woman, what lie he has. Maybe he's just like, oh, I was driving. But then that doesn't get contextualized until the second to last episode of the season, and like you don't get anything more about that. You're left to wonder, like, who was that woman? Was this an ongoing affair? What were Kevin's feelings towards her? And then it turns out there was just some anonymous woman driving through town on a conference. Her car hits a deer. Kevin, as the sheriff, is there to help her. He gives her a ride back to her hotel room, and then they go in there. They just have sex, and she disappears in the middle of sex. Yeah. What a thing to traumatize a guy. Like,
absolutely.
I loved those like really condensed, sharp, abrupt, flat, like mini micro flashbacks we got in episode 1. Some of which did get contextualized, or some of which like you see and you just that brief moment you understand. Like I think he's talking about how he went off to college and then he ended up dropping out. And there's a scene of him just standing there on campus, seeing 2 people jump off of one of the campus buildings. You can understand. Yeah, I get why you left. I get why you wanted something different. But like Lori's flashback was like schoolgirls fighting each other. And like, was that her when she was very young? Like you still don't completely understand. And maybe you don't need to. Maybe it's not a specific plot ingredient. Maybe it's just moods and feelings, like distant past, fuzzy traumas that they've carried throughout their lives.
Yeah. Like that stuff on like an individual, more micro level is fascinating. And I want to know more about these characters because of that. And I think the show does a really good job for the most part of what you said. These like smash cut, like really aggressive, just like boom, here's this one moment of trauma, and then boom, we're right back to just everyday normal life, right? Yeah. And I feel like it would have been interesting to see those opening moments of the trauma of October 14th of the departure, then to like smash cut 3 years down the road, chaos, like buildings are burning, people are shooting one another. Like, how do you go from that to it's understandable, but like to then have this like 3-part juxtaposition, right, where you get the inciting incident, you get the like 3.5 years later, and then you also get the like present day, like it's the anniversary, like we're trying to remember and move on. Like there is that more like slower melancholy thing in the middle of those 2, right, where it's just chaos on opposite side, a big chaos sandwich, right?
Yeah, yes, that's true. The show is a chaos sandwich.
Right, but and like I guess my point is that like it could have done what I think it could have done a better job of putting that like end chaos a little like sprinkled throughout just a little bit more to like
more foreshadowing.
Tease. Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I understood. I think the only thing I really didn't like about the show was the tone of it, but like I understood why it was that tone. I understand why it feels grim and melancholy and wistful. Even if that's not what I'm looking for in entertainment, I respect why the show is that. And it's got enough other things that interest me that I'm along for the ride, even if it does feel a little sad. Because it's not clear what the overall goal of the series is. Are we ever going to get any sort of answers, or is it strictly about just how these people struggle and like move on with their lives? And they're living in a period of, we're past the crisis. You know, there's more crises, like there's one at the end of the season, but it is just like this living with this chronic, never ending trauma just within their lives. And that's why the show kind of has a slower pace, why there's not a lot of tension, because there's not a lot of immediate pressing concerns or decisions or danger. Sometimes there is. But yeah, this is not a thrilling show. You would not classify it as a thriller at any point. It is a very interpersonal drama with mystery elements to it. I want to mention some of the little bits of weirdness sprinkled throughout the show that I really appreciated. I love when a drama is just sort of low-key weird, like not just has mystery or has like a possible sci-fi or supernatural element to it, but as something like kind of pseudo-comedic that's just odd. Like I love when Kevin puts his bagel through that like sort of conveyor belt bagel toaster in the police station, and it doesn't come back out. And you don't know. And this is in like episode 2 maybe, so you're still feeling out like how much of the show like is supernatural perhaps, and you're like, is his bagel really gone? Did his bagel really vanish? And at the end of the episode, like he's so like that symbolizes to him just mystery and loss in general. And he's like, I'm going to find out what happened to my bagel. And he like takes like a power drill to this this toaster like late at night when nobody else is hardly there. And he finds like the bagels all like burnt and like crunched up in the back of the machine. So you get a mystery at the end. But I like for most of that episode, it's like, maybe we never know what happens to his bagel. I love
poofed out of thin air.
Yeah. The episode where it's Christmas time and Jill has stolen the baby Jesus out of the nativity scene outside, church or whatever. And she's lying about it. She's doing it just to act out. But there is a town mystery if we're like the Jesus is gone and they're like, Kevin, you're the sheriff. You have to find him or like get a new Jesus, because it's stressing people out. But the episode starts with completely out of context, cold open. You watch these baby dolls being made in the factory. And weird. Like getting like this weird like rubber like squeezed into a mold, and then you pop out a baby head. You watch the doll being assembled and boxed up and sent to a store. Yeah. You have no idea what's happening until the end, where you see like somebody wrap it and buy the baby and wrap it in cloth and put it in a manger. And you're like, okay, it's Christmas time in Mapleton. There's a scene.
Weird stuff like that. I think the one that stood out to me was maybe it still revolves around the cults and stuff like that. I just oddly like the graffiti, the like save them posters that were all up around the city after, I don't remember her name, but the one woman who got stoned to death. Yeah. And they made these like iconic posters of her face, and it says save them underneath. Just like I like the bit of world building around that, how like someone is out there putting these posters up. Patty hinted that maybe it was even her that like had this stuff done, that she was the one that had her killed.
I thought we find out that it's Matt. Or maybe Matt's doing some other sort of a flyer campaign.
I don't think Matt's the one that put the posters up of her, but I think the whole thing that happened to that one woman is still a mystery. They hint that maybe it was Patty that set this up, but I don't think that's actually the case. I think that was her just being like, look, she knew what she signed up for. She knew she there would be some people out there that don't like her, but it's uncertain, and it makes it seem like, is Patty orchestrating some of this stuff to make a point or to
it really seemed like it was
drama? Yeah, so maybe she's somehow put these posters up that then the smaller members of the cult are then having to go take down and stuff like that. And just the whole thing is just strange, and it's just I don't get what's going on here exactly.
Yeah,
but it's weird. I like it.
One of my favorite bits is in the Gladys episode, and Jill's at school, and Kevin goes to see her to tell her that a member of her mom's cult died. He's like, I wanted to tell you directly. I didn't want you to hear about this. And, the second he appears at her classroom door, goes out in the hall, and she starts crying because she presumes it's her mom. It's that her mom died. Something bad happened to her. And she's sobbing, and Kevin's trying to comfort her, and he's like, no, it was somebody else, in the guilty remnant. I'm trying to tell them to stay inside. I want to place the whole town under a curfew. It's a very, emotional, family scene, but it's in a hallway of the high school. And in the background, you can see cheerleading practice. You can just see kind of blurry somersaults. And it's not close enough that it is an obvious juxtapositional joke. And it's not distant enough that it's just sort of in the background, you can see it out a window in the field. It's at the end of the hallway. It's 40 feet away, out of focus in the background. Just that they're doing this so close to just somersaults and flips and jumps was really funny to me.
It is a strange juxtaposition of Kevin trying to tell his daughter something tragic and to prepare her to be hey, it's not your mom, but it happened near your mom. So if more stuff happens down the road, I want to prepare you now that she's in a dangerous spot. Yeah, but then in the background, it's yay, go team!
I love things that aren't overtly a joke, but are just right on the cusp of that, of this sort of comedic absurdity.
Yeah.
Something I really appreciate about the show is that the departure only happened 3 years ago, and it's a world that's filled with so much rumors and hearsay and lore. I love that we're living in a world that's so steeped in lore so soon, so steeped in fresh lore. There's a scene where Amy and Jill and Amy and the twin boys and some other guys, people from their high school are all hanging out in the woods. They've got one of those classic teen woods hangouts where there's an old couch out there. And there's also an old fridge, and they play this game where they put you inside the fridge and they time how long you can last in there before you're okay, I can't breathe, open the door. And they're writing on the outside of it in Sharpie what your time is, and the greatest time is 45 minutes. And they do this in honor of some boy was doing this. I forget if he was if it was a dare or if it was a prank, other bullies trapped him in there, or if one of his friends dared him. But there was a boy who was, their age, who was trapped in there, who got departed, who is believed was departured because they opened it up later and he wasn't in there. But there was that sliver of mystery of well, we're pretty sure nobody can get out of this thing on their own. But it seemed fractionally unclear whether that was the absolute answer, or if there's still a little bit of mystery to it.
The kid actually existed. Is this just a story that they made up to?
But it's only 3 years ago. That's the thing. Normally, you'd see in other narratives, or I think even in real life, teens have urban legends like that, but they go back. It's decades ago. They're talking about something that happened 3 years ago. that kid might have been like a senior when they were freshmen. Like it's so close. Like it's close enough that there would be so many like proven facts. It's not just like a mythical boy. It's like, no, we could like get an old yearbook and look up specifically who the boy is. We could tell you, like, we can still talk to people today who were there 3 years ago where they still probably remember it. But it's presented like it is this ancient myth already of the boy who was trapped in the fridge when he, got zapped up to heaven or wherever.
Fun times, right?
I really like that. I love all of the like rumors and like, oh, you heard that everybody from the Perfect Stranger show disappeared. In the first episode, I wish I wrote down what these names were, but there is like Kevin's watching the news and there is a slideshow of like famous public figures who disappeared. And it's like, we lost Shaq.
Oh, man.
I love that they're intermingling like real world things into this narrative. Like they live in a world that is enough recognizable to our world.
Gary Busey, one of the ones that was on the news for something.
And somebody at this bar is like, now I understand memorializing Shaq, but come on, you got to put all these people in a list with Gary Busey. I love, this is my favorite part about it, that after this one event, there's so much emotional struggle, so much logistical struggle, so much investigation, but also like rumors crop up. I love the world of rumors that the show has established.
Yeah, because there'll be another book and show that I recommend here in a bit. But yeah, it goes past the rumors stage because so many other people have left. With 2% of people leaving, society is still there, right? Like this is not apocalyptic.
It's not like when Scott Lang gets out of the quantum realm and like San Francisco looks like it's a disaster zone.
Right. Yeah. No,
like
it's not that.
Still, yeah.
But it is this thing where like it's filled with rumor. Like it's in this gray area where it's like, okay, we know a lot of you were departed or know someone who was departed or stuff like that. But there's certain things that we might not know. Like there might be characters that we think was departed, but then maybe in season 2 and 3 we learn that they actually weren't, and maybe like they were murdered like just before. I don't have a specific.
No, I think that's a great opening, and again to reference the blip, one of the Spider-Man's high school teachers is like, yeah, I thought that my wife got snapped, but no, it turns out that she just ran away with her yoga instructor.
Right? Yeah.
Faked her death.
Yeah, just like some fake thing, some twist on that we have yet to discover. It's just, it's ripe for secrets and rumors and just people using it as an excuse to change or escape or stuff like that. So interesting.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of fallout of this that we have yet to see. And particularly, I'm still interested to find out like who are the loved ones of our main characters that have been lost. Like, Jill's best friend Amy is always at their house, and I'm like, what, does Jill live here? And then
I'm assuming her parents.
But then it turns out, no, Amy literally does live there. Why does she live there? Did her parents vanish? Did they die in another way? What is the story there? Why is she there? We still don't know. It's implied that her parents vanished, but we're not entirely clear on it. I like that dynamic a lot. I liked Amy just living there at the house.
Yeah, she is the like awkward, like not third whale, but just like this awkward extra person that's there. And I always like that dynamic in a show. And then it has this extra tension on top where she clearly thinks Jill's dad is hot and like wants to. It's like, hey, I wouldn't be opposed if one night things happen to go a certain way, but like it's just this tension there, and they do discuss it in this one scene, and that's why she leaves.
Which is
But
another
she was a
big
good
gray
character.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Jill can see there's like a tension there, and she asks Amy, like, did you have sex with my dad? And Amy's like, yeah, Jill, I did. But she says it like that where it seems sarcastic. So I think that she didn't. I'm pretty sure she didn't. But again,
It could also be the like, yeah, I thought you knew. Like we like
I
don't know.
It really seemed to me like she didn't. I don't know. We're going to find out. I feel like if that had happened, we would see more of it from Kevin's angle, and we don't. Like, I think he has a dream once where like Amy comes into his room and he's like, "You're not supposed to be here," and she's like, "Come with me," and then she leads him to like some other mysterious dream tableau. But of course, we'd have to look at it again. I mean, looking back on it, it seems more dreamy, more hallucination-y than like a thing Kevin did and then wakes up and he's like, no, that was just a dream. That one might have really been a dream.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We don't know. Like, because he is having these episodes.
Yeah.
That he doesn't remember them. He doesn't know. And yeah, the few bits that we do see from his perspective is he's like, he just seems confused by her most of the time. It's just like, why are you still here? And why are you in a bra? Just that, like, you're in high school. Like,
yeah, she walks around truly like it is her own house. Like, she's clearly wearing like a thin pajama shirt without a bra on underneath it several times, which was part of what clued me into. Oh, I don't think these are just slumber parties. It seems like you live here.
Yeah.
But what I like about Amy is that she does seem to very genuinely care about Jill and about Kevin. Like, it's not like she just thinks Kevin is hot. Like, she's worried about Kevin's well-being, which I appreciated. Like, she's worried about both of them and their cohesion as a family unit. Like, it seems like when they're arguing, Amy does not like it. Like she kind of tries to like patch things up, or she'll like if Jill has a question, she's like, no, I don't want to talk to my dad about that. Amy will be like, Jill, why don't you ask your dad about that? Or like Jill will leave in a huff, and then she'll turn to Kevin and be like, hey, I know you're really trying your best. Like, I like Amy's role as like this weird interloper, but also as somebody who's trying to patch things up.
Yeah, indeed. There's lots of small stuff that we can dig into that we didn't even really get to touch on. All of there's stuff. There's a lot.
There's a lot going on with the show, and I left the season thinking like, okay, I know what the show is doing stylistically. I love how it's styled, and I can tell you the plot of it. I can tell you the themes of it, but I don't know if I have a grasp on the message of it yet.
Yeah, or like where like what's the end goal of this show?
Yes.
Is it closure? Is it answers? Is it moving on? Like, yeah, what is the end goal of this show? That's what I
plot
think we
wise
still have
and
to figure
thematically wise. Yeah, I don't know what specifically the dialogue is going to be, or in a general sense, what the show is going to say when it wraps up. I don't know where it's going, which is exciting. I think season 2 is going to give us a lot of new things. Like, Tommy has been completely away from his family. We've not seen him talk to his family the whole season, except for the one flashback episode. I'm excited to see Tommy like back in town, interacting with his family again. What's that going to be like? Just seeing the Kevin dealing with his possible illness, maybe and then like it seems like he has a greater call to destiny, which again is like, is this something truly mystical, or is this a product of his mind, and something like a product of his dad's mind that his dad is feeding to him?
And how does National Geographic fit into all of this?
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, I enjoyed season 1 overall. Wasn't my favorite. was bored at times. But yeah, it's still it's a really, really well made show. There's some interesting things going on to hook you, or to at least hook you on certain characters and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely worth watching. But we'll see what happens in season 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, which we will be covering down the road. More info on that in just a sec. But Melissa, do you want to check in on Bingo? Review show Bingo.
Oh, right. Yes. What
Personally, I
cross
don't
off?
think I have anything that I can cross off at the moment. If I had not crossed off titties before, I could do so now.
Yes. Lots of nudity in the show.
But I don't
It's
really have
HBO.
anything else. I have actor who appears as themselves, but I don't think seeing Gary Busey on TV is really what I meant by that, or what we meant, because I don't know if that's like, do they pay Gary Busey to have him be like this cameo appearance on a TV screen in the show when it's just a picture of him?
Yeah. There is no actual performance. The one thing I know about the show is that we've got something like this coming. This is what I was alluding to before, that there is an actor as themselves who appears later.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So I might be able to
we will
Shaq,
by the end of the year. We will.
Shaq appearing as himself. Yeah. Who knows? But yeah.
I don't think I've got anything.
Personally, I have anything either. So, oh well. Bingo was a wash this week as well.
Mm-hmm. No ghost.
Actually, we don't. That's the thing. We did see Patty after she had died, and it was like a mental. It's unclear, right? If it's a mental hallucination or if it's just.
I don't want to cross that off yet. You're right. It is unclear what exactly that is. So I'm going to wait until we go further down that road to learn.
We also have
how much of what Kevin is seeing is true. Yeah. And how much is, we're going to get ghosts.
We'll get there one day. We check in on Bingo every week. We're playing to the end of the year just to see how many bingos we can get on a single card. Right now, Melissa, I think you're in the lead 2-1. But I am so close behind. I have 2 rows here that just need one thing in each of them. And stuff like that. But I think in the new year, I think we're going to expand the size of our card. I think that's what we had talked about. So we will have a wider number of things that we can pick from. So hopefully this next year, it won't be, it's like, another 3rd week in a row, no new things on this here. But yeah, keep that in mind. Nothing new on Bingo. Okay, Melissa, do you want to do recommendations?
Yeah. We've already talked about Lost plenty. Thank you. Yeah, it's Lost. You guys know Lost. I feel like we should have a meta bingo where we've got squares for every time we talk about Lost.
A drinking game. Every time we mention Lost, take a shot.
Yeah. I would recommend Angels in America, which is a stage play and was adapted into an HBO miniseries in 2003. And I remember watching the Emmys that year because it was right around when Lost came on. Oh no, that would have been the year before in the Emmys. Anyway, maybe you know why I know this? Golden Globes, because I was watching the Golden Globes for Lord of the Rings Return of the King. That's what it was. But Angels in America was an HBO miniseries that I remember being a really big deal when it came out, but I was 13 and I didn't have HBO, so I didn't really know or care what it was. And then I read the play in college in a literature class, and I really liked it. And then I got the DVD set of this mini series. And what the story is that it's set in what year is it? 1985. And well, the title, the subtitle of it, of the play at least, is Angels in America, a gay fantasia on national themes. It's about the core story of it. We follow several characters, but it's about this gay man named Prior Walter, who, let me just read you what Wikipedia says. Set in 1985, the film revolves around 6 New Yorkers whose lives intersect. At its core, it is the fantastical story of Prior Walter, a gay man living with AIDS who is visited by an angel. The film explores a wide variety of themes, including Reagan-era politics, the spreading AIDS epidemic, and a rapidly changing social and political climate. It's about, like sexuality, faith. There's Catholicism. There's Judaism. There's several Mormon characters in it. It's about illness. It's about romance. It's about addiction and fantasy and just trying to deal with living in troubling times and living in the 80s where the millennium is approaching. We're going to flip over to a new century, a new millennium. What does this mean for us? How is society going to change? Where are we going? You know, and how much of this is up to us and how much of this is something determined by God. It's a show. It's a story like The Leftovers, where it's playing with like very big philosophical themes that sometimes are a bit out of my grasp. Particularly, Nothing in Angels in America was something I could like personally grab onto. There's nothing that I was like, yes, I relate to this. I've been there. But it's very rich characters, very beautifully told, and I love the story stylistically. Like the miniseries has a really great cast. I've been thinking about this lately because it was like the first thing I ever saw. First time I ever took notice of Jeffrey Wright. Great performance by Jeffrey Wright in this. Your boy James Cromwell briefly appears. Al Pacino, Meryl Streep, Emma Thompson, big cast. But it uses a lot of double casting. The same actors will appear over and over again in different roles. There's symbology behind that. There's stories that just like crash and intersect into each other. You're not sure what's real. An angel like breaks through Prior's ceiling and it's like, was that real? Was he really visited by an angel? What does that mean?
Yeah.
I'm doing like a very sloppy job of explaining this because I haven't watched or read this thing in like almost a decade. But I remember it very fondly. It's a beautiful, like really impressive story. Definitely worth going back to now that HBO Max makes it easily available. Maybe I'll pitch this sometime. I'd love to talk to you about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. I think that's a good recommendation. I would like to recommend Why the Last Man. This is a graphic novel series. It's a comic book that has recently been turned into a television show that is on FX on Hulu. It's available on Hulu. Currently, as we are recording this, season 1 is happening now. New episodes are coming out every Monday. So you can watch the season there. But the graphic novel series is written by Brian K. Vaughan, who wrote one of my favorite comics, The Runaways. He's also written Saga. He was also a writer on Lost, stuff like that. But he's one of my favorite creators. But it is about it is more post-apocalyptic than this show, but this is the one that I was referring to where more people disappear than what happens in this show, because in Why the Last Man, all the males die. Every male mammal dies. So it's not just humans, but it's animals too. But yeah, it
I
ends
gotta
up
say, that is something I had to keep reminding myself watching The Leftovers, because I keep thinking about Infinity War, where Thanos
right.
does kill half of all life, including animals. I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
nobody talks about how their dog went missing. And I'm like, right,
because
that was
it
Marvel. That's
didn't
not
happen
here.
in
This was
this. Yeah,
humans only.
yeah. Um, but yeah, it ends up being this story. At least its larger themes kind of behind the scene is like, how does society move on from that? How would it change and adapt? Because society really broke down after that, because it's an interesting look on like male dominated industries and stuff like that. And I think the marketing campaign for the show was putting out these posters that like that had stats of like 80% of cops would disappear, or
Mm.
like I'm making up numbers, but like 93% of government officials would disappear, disappear and stuff like that. And so you really start to see like, hey, there's a bunch of industries out there that are dominated by men and just would basically stop working if they all disappeared. And so these women have to kind of step up and be like, hey, I've always been here. I actually do know how to run this thing. Or like they kept me at this lower position, so I don't know what to do with with these things, and now we have to figure it out. But the whole thing with why the last man is that even though all the men have died, there is one man named
Hmm.
whose name is Yorick, as well as his pet monkey ampersand. They have somehow survived. They are the last like living male mammals. And no one really knows why, and so people are reacting to it differently. The government wants to get their hands on him. Scientists wants to get their hands on him. Everyday women just want to get their hands on him because he is the last man. They haven't had
Yeah.
sex in a while, and in the meantime, he doesn't want any of that. He's just like, I want to find my girlfriend who was out in Australia at the time, and I just want to get to her. Can you all just leave me alone? So
Hmm.
he feels like he's stuck in the midst of all these things going on around him, similar to Tommy or Matt,
Uh-huh.
where he's
Yeah.
just he's just there. This is not a like male power fantasy. Haha, I can sleep with any woman I want to now that I am the last man on earth. No, it's not that at all. But yeah, it's a good book, but is much more post-apocalyptic than this show here. I would recommend that.
Nice.
There was
Another comic book, another graphic novel
go
that I
for it.
would throw out is Old Man Logan,
Interesting. Okay.
because I remember reading that, and that had a similar everybody was living in a time of rumor. Like society had, in that point, like this is a post-apocalyptic story, full on. Like
Yep.
society has totally
Villains
crumbled.
have taken over
Yeah.
society. Yeah, fell apart.
Yeah, but another story that I was like, I think this is too grim for me, but part of it that I do love is that there's so much rumor going around, because like communication has fallen, and everybody's like, I don't know where Reed Richards is. Somebody said that they heard from somebody that he might be over there. Who, like,
Right.
nobody's clear on who lived, who died, where anybody is, what anybody's doing. I like a narrative that operates in that kind of a gray area.
Yeah. One more thing I would recommend is something we covered recently on the show. House of Leaves. the book that we
Sure.
read not too long ago at the start of September. House of Leaves is a horror book, but I think in a similar way to this show, there is kind of this inciting incident slash thing that
Yeah.
is happening, and it's the book is more so in like exploration on how the characters react to this thing, right? In House of Leaves, it is about this house that is larger on the inside than it is on the outside, and there's this doorway basically into infinite blackness. It just leads to more rooms without windows and hallways and stairways into nothingness. And it's just them like trying to figure out what this is and cope with it. And families are torn apart and brought back together and so on and so forth. And it's an interesting character study, much like this is. So I would recommend House of Leaves.
Yeah.
There you go. That's all the recommendations I have, though.
Okay. Next week, we are beginning our spooky month. And we are watching the Australian. We're watching the Australian horror mockumentary Lake Mungo, which is about a family whose daughter has died. And they think they've seen her ghost. And it's about that paranormal investigation. And that digging into that daughter's life, and maybe she had secrets that the family didn't know about.
Yeah.
Again, all told through a fake documentary format, which is interesting, something we haven't covered before.
Yeah, I'm interested in this a lot. I kind of like I don't know if I can call it a trope, but I like the idea, or I like when stories will dive into a character's past, especially if they're dead, or if they're no longer like a part of the story, so to speak. But yeah, like diving into their past and exploring the mysteries of that character's past. Yeah, I don't know what to expect. I am huge, baby. Do not like scary stuff. Horror month is always nerve-wracking for me because we have not really done something that I have felt like truly horrified or like scared of yet. But I know it will happen.
Kyle, if you ever get too scared, let me know, and we'll pull the Casper card where we drop what we're watching, and instead we watch Casper.
No, not gonna happen. I will tough it out. But yeah, I am,
you have one
baby.
Casper card. You can cash in at any time.
I like that idea. That's funny.
And we call this...
that is what we are up to this next week.
Yeah, and we call this our end of the month special. What we're doing when we check in with a show, we normally do record it the last, Sunday of the month, but we do fudge that a little bit for October because last day of the month, that's Halloween. We gotta suck every Halloween drop out of the month of October. So we'll actually next be recording about The Leftovers on November 7th. So look for that on November 10th. So next time we will, you'll hear us talking about the Garveys and friends.
Indeed. Yeah. So we will be covering season 2 of The Leftovers early November, and then season 3 of The Leftovers late November. At least when we record it, it'll be that last weekend in November. I'm not sure what date that falls on exactly, but it'll be out that following Wednesday. So.
Yeah, you and I will be recording our next Leftovers episodes on November 7th, and then 3 weeks after that on November 28th.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff indeed. But yeah, for next week, Lake Mungo. Do you know if this is available on streaming services here in the US?
I think it's for free on Tubi.
Okay.
It is
free
low.
on Tubi,
It's a more
probably
obscure
with
movie, but it is
commercials.
locatable. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. But that's what we will be up to this next week. I'm excited to dive into Horror Month. Nervously excited, as I always am. But
You'll
yeah.
dive in, but you got your water wings on and your big, like, inflatable donut around your middle.
Exactly. Yeah, I am excited. I'm looking forward to it. That is what we will be up to this next week and down the road. Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit, that's WILKYWIT, and listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember.
There you go. If you guys want to stay up to date with me, I'm at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you guys want to follow all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So go like, share, subscribe, sell your soul. You guys know the deal with all that stuff. Tell a friend, tell a foe.
Write it on a notepad and show it to your local sheriff because you can't speak.
Write it on your hand, not pennies boat style, right? Yeah, and do all of that stuff. You guys know the deal. That would help us out a ton. But with that, I think that concludes number 166. No. What did I say?
176.
176. I knew it was a 6 at the end. 176. That concludes the Whatnauts Review Show 176. We will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.